Hello, in this video we will discuss about the body fluid compartment and we will also classify the solid and water. So basically the fluid or electrolyte we will discuss about that. Fluid and electrolyte. So important thing is that we are drinking water, which that is our requirement, and we are terrestrial environment. We are living in the terrestrial environment, so it means our requirement is the water is important, like the freshwater animals. So here is the water. When this water we will take, so this water is will become the part of our body, but the limited water is required in our body, we will discuss also. So the hair is, for example, body, which that is made up of total solid 40% and the water 60% in adult male, while in the case of female the total water volume is 50%, 10% less. Why? Because the females contain adipose tissue while the male contain muscle. This muscle mass in adult male is more, and that means water required for function of the muscle movement and the glycogenolysis and glycogenesis, etc., etc. So that is why the water is very important for the muscle contraction and muscle hydration, while in the case of the female, the male also contain the fat but less amount as compared to the female. So the female contain adipose tissue, in female is more. So that means less water in adipose tissue because water insolubility. So the fat is insoluble in the water. So that is why the water requirement is less as compared to the muscle. So important to know that the solid is basically can be protein, carbs and minerals as well as fats. So this is the solid, which that is made up of the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen, as well as the functional group is attached. So let's begin to understand the water content, basically the solvent, basically the fluid. So the waters contain a sodium, potassium, magnesium and calcium ion in the case of the fluid. So basically here is the, you can see that is the total body fluid. This total body fluid is the basically extracellular fluid, ECF. It is classified into the extracellular fluid, ECF, which that is made up of 1/3 is equal to 15 liter. So in the case of intracellular fluid, ICF is a 2/3 part of the body, is a 25 liter. So here let's begin to understand the extracellular fluid can be classified into the plasma, which that is the 20% fluid in circulation, while in the interstitial fluid is the 80%. That fluid is between the cell and it is 1/3. It means the 1/3 is less as compared to the intracellular fluid, which that is the 2/3 fluid inside cell. So what that means, inside of the cell is the total volume of the fluid is more as compared to the extracellular. So inside the cell is more fluid for the normal function. So here is the DNA, which that is in the nucleus. So that is known as a eukaryotic animal, for example the human being. So the intracellular fluid contains 2/3 of total body water. So the extracellular fluid contains the rest of the fluid, basically is the other part. So the 2/3 part is the total inside. It means the mostly fluid are present into the cell. While on the other hand, the movement of water occur passively in response to osmotic gradients. It means the creation of the osmotic gradients will lead to move inside the water. So let's begin to understand that what is that. So remember about that. Inside the cell is the protein and phosphate, which that is the anion, and this anion is important, which that contain a negative charge. So let's begin to understand. Here is the, when we take water, that is the fluid input. It is the per day is the 2500 ml per day to 3000 ml per day. So when it will be intake, it's go into the gastrointestinal tract, and after the absorption into the circulation as a plasma fluid in circulation. So after the circulation transport into the plasma, so the fluid output will be occurred. This fluid output means the excess or the loss of water for the normal function of in our body. So for example, the fluid output is the kidney, which that is produce the urine as a excretory product with the urea and other waste, and gastrointestinal tract to produce mucus as well as a secretion. So on the other hand, the lungs for respiration, so the breathing out to produce the evaporation of the water. On the other hand, the skin is important for the sweating gland to produce the sweat. So that is the total loss of the fluid is known as the fluid output. So the input is the intake of the water, while on the other hand the fluid output is the out releasing of the water. So let's begin to understand. One example is that here is the nephron, which contain a afferent arteriole, which that is lead to move toward the glomerulus, and Bowman capsule is wrapping around. And after the filtration, the reabsorption will be occur for further reabsorption of the water for maintain and homeostasis of the water. So even the 95% water will be lost during the excretion of the urea. So important thing is that here is a lymphatic vessel. This lymphatic vessel is very important for the normal function. For example, the excess fluid in the interstitial fluid, intercellular fluid, which that if excess to create the edema, so it will be lead to absorb into the lymphatic vessel, and after the absorption of the lymphatic vessel, that is the prevent for accumulation of the fluid into the interstitial space. So that means it will be clearance mechanism to maintain the extracellular fluid. So that is why. So the extracellular fluid, for example, in the plasma or interstitial, which that is the both. So electrolyte is can be calcium, sodium, potassium, magnesium. The concentration of electrolytes help to active transport, import, and normal function as a homeostasis. For example, the nerve impulse and muscle contraction. So here is the sugar are present in the plasma, which that is the fluid in circulation. In this way, the increase of the sugar will lead to increase the water, and the diuretic, it means the diuresis will be occur. It means the more urine produced with a high level of glucose in the diabetic person. So on the other hand, the water molecule are present in the plasma, and sodium is also present in the 145 millimole per liter, while in the case of the intracellular fluid contain a 12 millimole per liter sodium, while here the potassium is the low 4, and calcium is the 2.5, and chloride ion is the 115, while in the case of inner intracellular fluid contain a different strategy and different value. So here is it can be moved into the interstitial fluid, and in this movement into the interstitial fluid, it will not move directly, or diffusion will be not occur. Why? Because the semi-permeable membrane will not allow to move inside the ion, cation or anion. So this is the potassium, and calcium will not move inside. So what that means? That is the meaning of this, the chloride ion. This chloride ion is basically hydrogen bicarbonate is here, and here is the water, and this water is basically move into the intracellular fluid, and that means it can be moved by the increase the passive transport, and it means the aquaporin through a aquaporin or diffusion, and diffusion means the higher concentration to the lower concentration. And what that means, inside is the sodium, inside the concentration of the mineral or vitamin and protein is high, so the water is required. So important thing is that the movement of the water is you can see in this experiment to understand. So here is the jaw-like structure which contain a tube. Between both, here is a mid section contain a semi-permeable membrane where the solute is high. So the water is where water is high, so it means the water potential is increased, so the water will move toward the higher concentration of the solution. So that means the movement of the water from a higher concentration to the lower concentration of the water can be, and that is known as the osmosis. So it means the semi permeability will lead to cause the osmosis by the aquaporin channel, while on the other hand here is the important channel that is known as the ATPase dependent sodium potassium channel, which that is used for the use ATP to movement of the ion against the osmotic gradient. For example, the potassium inside is a more 155 millimole per deciliter, while the sodium is the less, but sodium is inside is the less, but it will move against the osmotic gradients. So that is why ATP is required. While on the other hand, the calcium is less than the 0.5 millimole and chloride is a 4 millimole. Its mean inside is a less, while the protein is a 55 millimole per liter. It is contain a negative charge, and phosphate group is 105 millimole per deciliter. So that means here is the albumin. Albumin is important for the osmolality in the plasma, which that is a use for the water retention and water homeostasis. So here is the cation. Potassium inside is more, but here is the cation. Sodium is more into the interstitial fluid, while the intracellular fluid contain a cation is more potassium. So here is the anion. Anion is more is as a protein and phosphate, while here is the cation is more. And here is the anion is the carbon hydrogen bicarbonate, which that is used for the homeostasis in the blood pH, which that is a normal 7.35 to 7.45. So here is the DNA is also contain a negative charge, so that is play important role as a anion. So in summary, we can say that the sodium is main extracellular fluid cation, and the chloride is the main extracellular fluid anion, and the potassium is the main intracellular fluid cation, and the phosphate is the main intracellular fluid anion. So the important bicarbonate, hydrogen bicarbonate, important for the balance of the pH, so that is the homeostasis for the acidic and basic medium homeostasis. So I hope you make sense. The fluid and electrolyte is important in our body as a homeostasis, as well as the maintenance and waste product excretion and normal physiology. So thanks for watching.